I'm a member of the cartoon community. I've been one since early 2016. In my time of being part of this community, I've discovered a lot of very similar mindsets and opinions that members of the community seem to share, beyond their liking for animation. One of these shared mindsets is a question of creative control versus executive meddling. I mentioned this in my video answering my cartoon community questions forum, but many people in the cartoon community are very pro creativity over business. A lot of them believe that networks should be more altruistic, should do things more for creativity instead of money, should put creators and quality first above all else, and should give equal time, treatment, and attention to each and every currently running show they have. The latter part of the mindset is what I'm going to be focusing on today, explaining why I believe it's a bit of a silly thing to think. In my opinion, the reason why a lot of cartoon community members hold this mindset is because of sympathy for poorly treated creators and poorly treated shows. One of the most notable examples is Harvey Beaks, and many people converting to this mindset, or standing even firmer in it if they already believed it, when it was announced that Harvey Beaks would be cancelled. While Harvey Beaks wasn't the worst treated Nicktoon in my opinion, I do think it had the most infamous treatment of any Nicktoon. A lot of people grew sympathetic and sorry for creator C.H. Greenblatt after he gave a spiel on Tumblr expressing his disappointment in Nickelodeon about the show's cancellation and how he was never even told about this. A more recent example is Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I think is the second most infamous treatment of any Nicktoon. While unlike Harvey Beaks, the creative person behind it never publicly badmouthed Nickelodeon or expressed disappointment about the mistreatment, a lot of fans of Rise were appalled by the show's constant hiatuses, the show's move to Nicktoons, almost a requirement for any Nicktoon greenlit during the Seema Zargami era, and Nickelodeon themselves giving as little attention to the show as possible and seemingly trying to intentionally bury it. And the latter was basically all but confirmed by someone working on the show who said that the show suffered due to being caught in between management changing in Nickelodeon during the time, and the new executives not caring for it. Here's the thing though. I feel like most of the hatred against Nickelodeon or the animation industry in general whenever this happens are from people who just see one event like this happen and take the opposite extreme. I call this the Greenblatt Effect. Maybe there's already a name for the term, let me know in the comments if there is, but that's what I'm going to call for the rest of the video. I'm calling it that after C.H. Greenblatt, who, after the announcement of Harvey Beaks' cancellation, made a lot of people take the opposite extreme of networks having the final say on when and where shows air, which, in this case, is thinking that all shows should be treated equally and never have any scrutiny whatsoever. The Greenblatt effect happens all the time. It occurs in plenty of other contexts too, especially in politics. Like, after 9/11 happened, the USA became much more conservative and militaristic, supported more military spending in order to curb future terrorism because of one horrible act of terrorism in America. Or more recently, the Black Lives Matter movement, which really blew up this year due to George Floyd's death and people taking the opposite extreme of racism. Which for some protesters includes tearing down statues, including ones of abolitionists, and being violent themselves, even though the point of the movement is to stop violence from police, but I digress. The problem I have with people who do fall into the opposite extreme so easily like this is that they're not seeing the full picture. There's two sides of every story, and people have only really heard one side, the creative side. But the animation industry is made up of creative teams and business teams. Incidents like shows getting screwed over by networks are only seen from the perspective of the creative teams. But you need to look at things in both contexts. From the perspective of a business team, there are plenty of reasons why some shows don't get as well of a treatment as another show on the same network. Probably the simplest and most obvious answer is that they're just not as popular. The point of a business is to make money, and if one show is more popular and gets more views and generates more revenue, of course they're going to play that show more than the others. It's simple business logic that's trivial to understand. Whenever I hear someone say that they think that all shows on the network should get equal treatment, I always wonder what exactly they mean by that. You can't give every show exact equal treatment. Do you want every single currently running show on a network to have exactly equal or roughly equal time slots and play in a pattern? Do you really want Nickelodeon to play unfiltered exactly as many times as SpongeBob and every other show they have? Because that's what complete equal treatment means. Once again, I mentioned this in my Cartoon Community Questions Forum video, but I believe all shows should have equitable treatment. That is, I believe more popular shows should still get aired more, but less popular shows should get aired slightly more than usual. There's a difference between equality and equity. I believe a show's number of times on the schedule should be proportional to its viewership, so that every show gets played at least once per week, and even though popular shows like SpongeBob still get played more, it doesn't clog up the schedule into being half their daytime non-Nick Jr. schedule. In a time where cable is less popular than it's ever been, SpongeBob doesn't get twice as many views as the second popular show, so it's a fine enough balance. Another thing that's worth considering is that there are some business decisions that happen behind the scenes that we, as viewers, don't know about and never will. Many network executives have to sign NDAs and keep certain things from public knowledge. Every single business decision, such as moving shows to sister networks to air their last few episodes, has a reason for happening. And the reason always roots back to one thing: money. That's the driving force behind any business. And money is what it takes to keep any business afloat. Would a network really greenlight a show if they didn't have any faith in it or didn't think it would succeed? Animation is expensive to make. Cartoons aren't cheap. Would they really pour money into a creator so that they make them a cartoon if they didn't think they could make that money back and then some? What sense would it make to pour hundreds of thousands of dollars into making a show and then potentially pouring all the money down the drain by burying the show so that no one can watch it one season in? They'd have to be pretty stupid to do that. Maybe moving a show over to Nicktoons was done because its reruns on Nicktoons are doing really well over there, but it's not doing as well on the main Nickelodeon channel, so moving new episodes over to Nicktoons as well is a better fit. Maybe they recognized how unpopular the show was and decided to spare audiences by sending its remaining episodes to air on a channel that gets less views. In the case of Rise of the Team into your glitch techs, some people have speculated these shows are getting screwed over because they were greenlit under SEMA, but Brian Robbins, the current president of Nickelodeon, wants a fresh slate. The reason isn't necessarily the same for every show that gets screwed over, even if they're screwed over in the same way. Now, I'm by no means saying that's always justified whenever a network screws over a show or that people should just accept whenever this happens. If a network does do something legitimately scummy behind the scenes, then I'm all for calling them out. But it's better to reserve your initial anger and consider the other side of the story first. Why exactly did the network decide to do this? Was the reason really just because they didn't give it enough of a chance to grow, or it didn't get as many views as SpongeBob, or was there something more to it? Maybe there was more than one reason. There were numerous factors that went into the decision. We can only speculate on whatever happens behind closed doors when executives make these decisions, unless someone working on a show comes forth and tells us exactly what happened, like C.H. Greenblatt did with Harvey Beaks. Seeing both sides of the issue is important. Now I know some people are going to say, well, they're a corporation and corporations are always evil, so the reason's automatically a bad reason, but that's just a result of bias. You need to look at a situation without bias to get the full picture. Here's something else to consider. I've heard some people in the community say that creators shouldn't pitch their shows to Nickelodeon or X Network because it's going to get screwed over there. Heck, I've even heard some people say that you should go completely independent so that it can't get screwed over. Well, if creators really did believe this bias and decided not to go to Nickelodeon or X Network with their pitches, why do networks still receive so many pitches? Why aren't more animation veterans attempting to go independent and making new shows completely by themselves? The Nicktoons death treatment clearly isn't scaring animation creators away. People like Ant Blades or John Tropic III are still pitching the shows to Nickelodeon. Clearly Nick still has something to offer to creators. Going independent isn't always the best option. Not only do you have to fund and manage everything completely by yourself, but you also have to work to get your animation well known. On a network, executives just give you the money to make in exchange for guaranteed views on TV and you losing the rights to it yourself. Plus, you don't know, maybe creators had ulterior motives for pitching their shows to a network well known for screwing over their shows. Maybe they just had confidence it would be different this time. Maybe the show got rejected everywhere else. Maybe they were already working there on a current show on the network. Maybe they thought the show would fit better on Nickelodeon. In Joe Murray's book, Creating Animated Cartoons with Character, he mentioned that you should do your research when it comes to deciding which network or studio to pitch your show to, and just pitch to the one that you feel like the show will fit best on. Maybe after examining all their options, a creator just decided that Nickelodeon was the best one, decided to swallow the bullet of the show possibly getting screwed over there. There's plenty of reasons why creators continue pitching to Nickelodeon despite their reputation. Plus, I've noticed that the same people who say that creators shouldn't pitch to Nickelodeon because their shows get screwed over are often the same people who say that they wish Nickelodeon would greenlight more original shows instead of focusing so much on revivals and spin-offs. Well, they can only greenlight more original shows if creators actually pitch to them. It really makes the people who say that look like hypocrites, especially when you're complaining about the newest revival or spin-off they greenlit instead of promoting their currently running original cartoons. An animation network being a non-profit charity that makes good, high-quality, 100% creator-driven cartoons out of the goodness of their hearts, lets creators do exactly what they want all the time, always tries to be innovative, and gives every single show on their roster complete and equal treatment and attention no matter what, is a dream that only exists in the minds of people who end up suffering from the Greenblatt Effect after incidents of mistreatment in the animation industry occur. In reality, it's just never going to happen. That's not how businesses work, and that's not how capitalism works either. You can complain and boycott all you want whenever this happens, but it's just not going to change anything. In fact, with the decline of cable and TV networks doing everything they can to stay alive, it might actually get worse. Networks are going to become more and more desperate to make money in a time where nobody's watching live TV anymore. It might become inclined to pull the plug on unpopular shows early if they're costing more to make than they are to keep on the air. And don't think a show's safe if it's on a streaming service. This same thing of behind-the-scenes meddling and pulling the plug on unpopular shows quickly most definitely happens there too. I'm sure there's some ugly story about Tuca and Bernie's cancellation that we don't know about. Compromises are inevitable when you make a show for a network or streaming service. This is something that every creator should know if they really want to enter the industry. You can't have everything go 100% your way all the time. If you're a creator who is upset that your show didn't get well treatment, At least try to be happy that Network decided you were worthy of giving your show the green light in the first place. Try to focus on the positives and at least be glad your show made it to fruition in some way. You have a right to be angry, but it's not good to constantly wallow. As for the viewers, if you really are upset about the reality of how the animation industry works and can't accept the reality of how businesses operate under capitalism, well, too bad, commie!